It's Thursday, August 3rd, and this is now on HNN.
Former President Donald Trump returns to Washington, D.C. to face charges related to the January 6th Capitol attack and alleged efforts to overturn the 2020 election. I'm Natalie Brand with the historic hearing.
Please give her a chance, even if it's 30 years from now or 40 years from now, please.
Haley Danduran, the woman convicted in a grisly Oahu North Shore murder, will learn her sentence today.
I will not subject my daughter to a re-trauma.
Red Hill parents in a lawsuit against the military are outraged at a request that the kids undergo mental and physical health exams.
These stories, plus as the new school year approaches, Casey Lund speaks with teachers to see if they're getting the support they need. Details coming up on This Is Now. Aloha and good afternoon. Thanks for joining us here on This Is Now. We begin with a live look from one of our tower cams. This is in the Kaka'ako area looking towards central Oahu. We are following reports of a brush fire that is burning in Waikele. I want to show you some video that we've just got into our newsroom. This is right behind the Village on the Greens neighborhood. Authorities are on scene, Honolulu firefighters along with police. We do know that Lumi'ao'ao Street is currently closed from Lumi'aina to Olua Place. So I'm quite familiar with this neighborhood. This is my neighborhood. We are told that the flames are burning within Patsy Mink Park. Again, this is video into our newsroom that we just got minutes ago. As you can see, authorities have closed off Lumi'ao'ao. So we are keeping a very close eye on this. We don't know of if any evacuations have been ordered at this time. But as you can see, the live camera, once again, large, thick smoke billowing seen from miles away. We'll keep a close eye on that fire and bring you any updates on air and online as we get them. We want to turn now to our other top story in national news. Former President Trump appeared before a judge to be arraigned on charges relating to his alleged actions to overturn the 2020 presidential election.
He entered a not guilty plea after arriving at a D.C. courthouse just blocks away from the U.S. Capitol building where his supporters stormed on January 6th to block the transfer of power. Now, it's the third criminal case filed against Trump this year, but the first to try to hold him criminally responsible for his alleged efforts to cling to power. He and his team continue to insist this is a witch hunt and political persecution. Natalie Brand was outside the courthouse.
Donald Trump arrived in Washington, D.C. and then traveled by motorcade to a federal courthouse. This is the former president's first court appearance to face unprecedented charges related to the January 6th Capitol attack and what prosecutors allege was a sweeping scheme to overturn the 2020 election. Trump pleaded not guilty to 4 felony counts, including conspiracy to defraud the United States and conspiracy to obstruct an official proceeding. Outside the courthouse, security is tight, the city even pulling snowplows out of storage to bolster the fence line.
Here on the sidewalk outside of the courthouse, there are both supporters of the former president and those demonstrating against him. Some people even traveling from out of state to be here for this historic hearing.
Trump himself weighed in ahead of the hearing, saying he's going to Washington to, quote, be arrested for having challenged a corrupt, rigged, and stolen election.
Essentially, his defense is going to be, I fully had the right to contest an election that I knew or I was convinced was rigged. And so part of the challenge here is to prove that, no, this was in fact a fraud.
Special counsel Jack Smith says he's seeking a speedy trial, but Trump's legal team has signaled they will seek delays as the former president now faces charges in 3 separate cases. Natalie Brand, CBS News, Washington.
Trump's legal spokesperson, Alina Habba, spoke with reporters outside of the courthouse ahead of his not guilty plea. She laid out some of the former president's defense while deflecting to President Biden for what she called a targeted act from the Department of Justice.
President Trump is under siege in a way that we have never seen before. President Trump and his legal team and everyone on his team will continue to fight, not for him, but for the American people. Everybody was made aware that he lost the election, but that doesn't mean that that was the only advice he was given. As anybody understands what happens in the Oval Office, there are a numerous amount of advisors and politicians and lawyers, not just one or two, that are giving you advice and telling you what they believe is true.
HNN's Washington correspondent Brendan Cullerton is there in Washington, D.C., continuing our team coverage. Brendan, describe the scene there outside the courthouse.
Well, Ashley, now that the former president is leaving the courthouse, Sweet Caroline, if you can hear it in the background, is now playing. There's been a lot of energy outside the courthouse all day long from advocates both for and against the former president. We've seen lock him up chants. We've seen Uncle Sam costumes, megaphones, Trump flags. It was almost like a little mini Trump rally, a little bit closer to the courthouse, while more serious business was happening inside the building behind me.
And what can you tell us about what happened inside the courthouse today?
So in many ways, this is just like your average citizen going to trial. There are a lot of ways it's not, but, he did have to go in, get fingerprinted, get booked. He did, in fact, plead not guilty inside today as he makes his way to the airport. But he was not taken. He didn't have his mugshot taken, and he was escorted in by the U.S. Marshals. So in some ways, very unlike a normal person going to a court hearing.
And Brendan, you were describing the crowd. Is it mostly pro-Trump supporters or protesters, or would you say a good mix of both?
There's definitely a mix out here. I would say there are more people speaking out against the former president, which does make sense for where we are. This was announced relatively recently, and this is a very Democratic area. More than 90% of Washington voted for Joe Biden in the last election, and you do see that in the crowd. More people chanting lock him up than chanting USA out here.
Yeah, Brendan, and we know the former president is battling several lawsuits right now. How do we think this will affect his run for president in 2024?
Well, it's kind of a double-edged sword with his run for president because he can't fundraise off of these legal issues he's having. He's already fundraised millions of dollars off of these several cases, but he does need to spend money on his legal fees, and when he's here, he can't be on the campaign trail. So as these cases pile up against the former president, it's more time he has to devote to legal matters and less time he can campaign to be the next president of the United States.
All right, HNN's Washington correspondent Brendan Cullerton from Washington, D.C. this afternoon. We appreciate the time.
In local news, Honolulu police have launched an attempted murder investigation after they say a woman was assaulted at a beach park in Hau'ula. It happened Sunday just before 9 p.m. when HPD says the 37-year-old woman was attacked by her 19-year-old ex-boyfriend. She was taken to the hospital and an assault investigation was opened. But we're told her condition has since deteriorated and HPD has upgraded the possible charge against the suspect to second-degree attempted murder. He hasn't yet been arrested. Also new today, a man and woman have been arrested for an alleged kidnapping and robbery in Kahala, and police say a third suspect is still on the run. HPD says last Thursday night, the trio carjacked a man at gunpoint and forced the victim into the trunk of his car. They let him go 6 hours later, but stole his vehicle and all of his belongings. 2 of the 3 were arrested yesterday afternoon, still driving that stolen vehicle. Again, police are still looking for that third suspect who is believed to be a male.
3 people died in a fiery head-on collision in Lahaina just after 3 Wednesday morning. Investigators say a 22-year-old Kihei man was speeding when he crossed the double yellow line and struck a car carrying an 81-year-old man and a 75-year-old woman, both from Lahaina. All 3 were pronounced dead at the scene.
The male operator of the Kia Soul was wearing his seatbelt at the time of the collision. His female passenger was not wearing her seatbelt at the time of the collision. And it is unknown at this time if the male operator of the Ford Escape was wearing his seatbelt.
Police ordered toxicology tests to see if alcohol or drugs were involved. They have not yet released the victims' names.
Hawaii Island police have identified the body found in waters off the Puna coastline as 39-year-old Seth Walchin. Officials said the Hilo resident was initially reported as a missing person on July 30th after he failed to return from opihi picking and diving the day before. Police said his body was found near the cliffs off Old Government Road in the Hawaiian Paradise Park subdivision. A forensic pathologist ruled his death was consistent with drowning and ruled out foul play. However, final autopsy results are pending toxicology testing. An investigation remains ongoing, and anyone with information is asked to call police. Happening today, a sentencing hearing is underway for Haley Danduran. The 26-year-old was convicted of second-degree murder earlier this week for killing Telma Boinville in a Pupukea home in 2017. She was also found guilty on kidnapping, burglary, and other charges. The prosecuting attorney is seeking extended term sentencing, which would make Danduran eligible for life in prison without the possibility of parole. Danduran's then ex-boyfriend Stephen Brown was also found guilty of murder, kidnapping, and burglary in the crime. He's set to be sentenced on August 30th.
Please give her a chance, even if it's 30 years from now or 40 years from now, please. She is a human being with morals and values. This is a life sentence. This is the death penalty.
Objection.
I'm pleading that you offer her parole so that I can make more memories outside of prison. This was what all happened within 4 months. Not her whole life.
Meanwhile, the trial of Eric Thompson continues today. The jury has already heard from both sides. Pitching his alibi, Thompson previously testified he was dumping construction materials at the Waimanalo Convenience Center the night acupuncturist John Tokuhara was killed at his Waipahu clinic. Prosecutors then cross-examined that defense. Closing arguments are expected today. Parents of children who were sickened by the Red Hill tainted water are pushing back against the military's request for physical and mental examinations. Mahealani Richardson has the story.
The U.S. government wants the first group of plaintiff families in the lawsuit to undergo physical and psychological examination for up to 16 hours over 2 days because of claims of psychological and emotional injuries. Now, part of it would include a mental exam where a young child would be alone with a psychologist. But tonight, parents say no way.
After thousands of people got sick from drinking fuel-contaminated water from the Red Hill fuel spills in 2021, Amanda Fine says her daughter Palmer developed a fear of water.
The waters might throw up on the moon. It is really, really sad to me.
Oh gosh. Hey. It's gonna be okay. The water's not gonna make you sick, okay?
Fine says it actually did.
I got sick.
Now 5 years old, Fine says her daughter is still traumatized and struggles with behavioral, stomach, and skin issues.
We have been in a place where my daughter is still crying and or fears water, and the same fear with doctors, as you can imagine. And I will not subject my daughter to a re-trauma.
This isn't about treatment at all. And I think it's so unfortunate. I'm so against it. I find it to be extremely unethical.
Plaintiff Nastasha Freeman is a licensed mental health counselor. She says her 6-year-old son Dash has tremors and seizures after drinking the tainted water.
We have 5, 6-year-olds, 10-year-olds being treated like lab rats. Typically, these type of exams are found within family court and in criminal court.
In court documents, a psychologist retained by the U.S. government says, quote, independent medical examinations of minors are appropriate and necessary. Minors are susceptible to persuasion from third parties, particularly their guardians. It is essential to speak with and examine the minor alone.
I couldn't believe what I was hearing at first because it just seemed so excessive and unnecessary.
The government says psychological exams would not be conducted of the 2 plaintiffs who are 3 and 4 years old. The parameters of the medical and mental exams are still being debated in court. Mahealani Richardson, Hawaii News Now.
Well, we are just days away from the start of the new school year, and of course, it's no secret that being a teacher in Hawaii is difficult. Casey Lunn has a look at some of the support being offered to this year's educators.
Aloha from McKinley High School, and we've been talking to the teachers union as well as teachers to get an idea of what they're facing as they go back to the classroom. You may remember HSTA agreed with the DOE on a contract, a 4-year deal that will essentially bump most teachers' pay by 5% of this first school year, 14% over the length of that 4-year contract, and actually a little bit more. Laverne Moore is with us, who's been teaching in Hawaii for 50 years, more than 50 years. I want to ask you, you're a special education teacher here at McKinley, is that pay raise enough, and how did you feel when that deal was reached?
I was ecstatic. I've been teaching for over 54 years, and this contract the teacher got is a great contract. Teachers, especially our emergency hires, went from 39,000 to 50 plus. That is a great step. That's a great incentive in keeping our teachers here in Hawaii.
And I also know, though, talking about emergency hires, you have 2 of them, correct? That you're mentoring, that are trying to get into the special education program. They want to be special education teachers, which is not an easy job. I know that. What are they doing, and many other teachers in the state of Hawaii, to supplement for school supplies and to make their classrooms ready for their students? They're spending money out of their own pocket.
My one special ed teacher spent over $4,000 last year to meet the needs of her English language students. This year, because she's teaching special ed, she spent another $4,000 redoing her whole classroom, buying lessons that will meet their needs. She is still working on making her room presentable, making it feel comfortable, making them feel like they want to learn. She will be an excellent teacher for the state of Hawaii. I want the DOE to treat our incoming future teachers the way the special needs they did for the teachers from the Philippines. Pay for their coursework, pay for their praxis. Many of them do not have the money to even pay to have the praxis taken. We need to build our base here in Hawaii. They will stay and they will build our educational system.
Laverne Moore from McKinley High School, thank you so much for your time today. We have a lot of coverage on back to school. Of course, we've been doing that all week. We'll continue to talk about these issues, and tomorrow our continuing coverage goes on with after-school programs, the options that are available for parents here in Hawaii. For now, we'll send things back to you.
Now to the northwestern Hawaiian Islands, where a team collected over 86,000 pounds of debris from the area. During their 20-day cleanup, divers and small boat operators focused on carefully removing ghost nets from coral reefs and other plastics from the shorelines. They also disentangled and saved a Hawaiian green sea turtle from a net, as well as several protected seabirds. This work was all part of the Papahanaumokuakea Marine Debris Project.
Let's go ahead and give you one more live look outside. We are tracking that fire out in Waikele. The smoke is still burning. We are constantly getting some new images into our newsroom, and we're working to bring them to you. Once again, firefighters are on scene, and they are trying to get the upper hand in this. For now, let's go ahead and send things over to our guy Hoggy with a look at your forecast.
How's it on this Thursday? The quiet conditions continue in the Central Pacific, so things are looking pretty good. Although we could see some stronger winds as Hurricane Dora comes close to the islands sometime early next week. But at this point, it's not a threat, right? It's over 2,000 miles away. So we're seeing more beautiful conditions. A few minor splashes this morning. Not a lot of rain out there. We'll get a surplus of trade winds, though. Those trade winds will run nice and firm for the next couple of days. And as Dora gets closer early next week, that's when we are expecting the winds to bump up. But for today, the winds will be running nice and steady, a little breezy at times at 15 to 20. Rain's not a concern. Sunshine is in excess, so make sure you have a lot of sunblock. And you might want to use that sunblock because the surf's going to be fun size in town. But heads up, those extreme afternoon tides might lead to some minor coastal flooding. And that's likely the case through today, and then things will start to mellow out tomorrow. So over the weekend, the weather's going to be very, very nice. We got textbook trade wind weather. So basically the best weather on the planet through Sunday. And then starting on Sunday, as whatever Dora is, hurricane or tropical storm gets closer, the winds will start to get stronger. It's going to be especially windy on Monday and Tuesday.
Here's what you need to know about Hurricane Dora.
Unlike the Explorer, Hurricane Dora is undergoing rapid intensification in the eastern Pacific. Low wind shear and warm ocean water is providing the ideal environment for hurricane growth. Good news is that current forecasts currently have the storm tracking south of the island chain. But the question is, what is causing that? How much can we trust that southerly track? Are we sure that it won't turn northward? Well, the reason the storm is taking this path is because of the semi-permanent high-pressure system in the North Pacific Ocean. This is the same high-pressure system that is causing the trade winds back here at home. There's also colder waters in the Central Pacific that will cause Hurricane Dora to weaken as it continues moving westward. This is the same cold water that caused Hurricane Calvin to weaken to a tropical storm. The thing that we need to keep an eye on here is the development of the North Pacific high-pressure system. If it develops eastward, Hurricane Dora could round the bottom of the circulation and start tracking northward. If the high-pressure system stays put, it's going to stay southward of the island chain. And as always, we are going to be keeping eyes on this around the clock. To get the latest updates, make sure to download the Hawaii News Now First Alert Weather app. We'll give you the latest forecast for Hurricane Dora.
Drew is such a great addition to the weather team. Kind of brings a new kind of flair.
Yeah,
to his
definitely.
reporting.
And it's the insight, added knowledge about what's steering Dora. So we got to keep a close eye on that high pressure fan to the north of the island.
That's right. All right, let's see what the internet's talking about. Golfers at a course in Canada might be keeping a closer watch over their clubs these days. That's because there has been a bear lingering around the 13th hole. Here's Jeannie Moose with more.
Forget bear cubs.
Oh my God.
We're talking bear clubs. A golf club stealing bear. It happened on the 13th hole at Westwood Plateau Golf Club outside Vancouver, Canada. The bag belonged to Jerome Gignac.
You're sure there wasn't a sandwich in that bag?
I'm sure there was nothing.
No food. Jerome started to follow. But the female bear dragged his bag down a ravine. The good news:
I got really lucky there. All the clubs were dumped out. The putter was still in there just as it went over the edge, and it fell out just at the edge of the ravine.
So all the bear got was a dozen balls and a bag of tees.
The bear is still right there. Hey, no! Hey!
Golf Digest called it the wildest horror movie of the summer, making Golf Bear the new cocaine bear. The bears at this course are nothing to sneeze at. 2 years ago, a bear got teed off at golfers and tossed their ball back at them.
Oh, that's hilarious!
Jerome was unable to retrieve his recently purchased bag, but Golf Bear must have been bummed. It wasn't Yogi Bear's picnic basket. Bears are apparently par for this course. And boy, could this girl caddy.
Smarter than the average bear.
Jeannie Moose, CNN, New York.
Yikes.
The puns that she uses in her stories are just impeccable. I love them.
Absolutely.
We want to go ahead and give you one more update on that brush fire in Waikele. This is some new video, again, just into our newsroom. This is from inside Patsy Mink Park. Once again, we do know the large brush fire is still burning in the Waikele area. So far, no evacuations have been ordered for area residents there. And this is a live look outside through our camera from town side. You can see the thick smoke is still billowing there. So we again are gathering more details. We do know firefighters are on scene along with police, and Lumi Au Street remains closed from Olua Place all the way to Lumi Aina. So we will work and bring you the latest details online and in later editions of Hawaii News Now. Thanks for watching, everyone.
Aloha.